the beginning of the most heinous murder in history. Catherine stood in the iron cage recalling her memories with her husband Steve, and how she was a violent girl, but when she met her husband, she forgot all this and decided to start a new beginning as she loved him with all her heart. Catherine was enjoying the apparent beauty and delicacy, but she began her life by working in a butcher's shop, and there was the first meeting between her and the first David, who was addicted to alcohol, and from here it was natural for Catherine to defend herself in every quarrel between her and David, and she was able to overcome him in many fights, as she could carry him and throw him on the ground to fall unconscious. And despite this quarrel, which was always in favor of Catherine, she asked him for a divorce. She went to work elsewhere so as not to see him again, and she chose to work in a butcher's shop as well. There she met her second husband, Steve, who was working as a waiter in a restaurant and was distinguished by kindness and morals. The relationship between Catherine and Steve lasted for 5 years, which was also full of quarrels. This caused Catherine to become frustrated, which led to her being admitted to a mental institution. After leaving the sanatorium, she and Steve decided to marry, which resulted in the birth of a daughter and a son. But mental illness never left Catherine because her husband always felt threatened with her, which made her rent an apartment of his own, and this made there a big problem in Catherine's psyche. And one day, perhaps this was the real beginning of the most heinous murder in history. On the day Catherine decided to kill her husband, she went to his other apartment, and with her little dog that their bitch had given birth to 3 months ago. And as soon as he opened the door for her, she slaughtered the little dog in front of him in order to make him feel afraid of her, and that she could do anything. The husband was very shocked by what she did, and here I told him that he should sell this apartment and live with her and with his daughters. The man agreed, not out of fear of Catherine, but out of fear of his daughters. After what she had done in front of him of killing the dog, indeed, he sold the apartment and moved to live with her continuously. But at the same time he wrote a paper. He gave it to one of his close friends and he signed it, that if anything happened to him, the first responsible is Catherine and no one else. And indeed what he expected happened. Steve, on the day of the crime, while he was returning from his work, he found Catherine preparing food for herself, and she did not return to him. And when he asked her, she told him, "I like to slaughter the carcass while it is empty stomach." Steve felt some anxiety, and he spoke to a neighbor, and this was at 11 o'clock. When he told him what had happened, he hung up and then lay down to sleep. Catherine entered upon him with a cleaver and stabbed him 37 times, which was sufficient, because Steve died from these stab wounds, and then she hung his body like the sheep on the ceiling of the room using the butcher's hook. Then she separated the head from the body and skinned for kilos of meat, which she cooked with vegetables, and she and the girls ate it. Then put the head on the fire to level it and left it. Then went up to her room and I took a large number of sleeping pills. And in the morning, when Steve's friend noticed not showing up for work, he calls the police and gives them the letters Steve left with him. When the police forces raided the house, they found the pot of the head boiling over the fire since yesterday, but she denied and said that she took many sleeping pills and did not know what happened. The scene was very ugly. The house was covered with traces of blood, but Catherine insisted that she did not know what happened to her husband and what made the head from the body and placed in the food bowl, and insisted on denial. The Australian courts did not witness the ugliness of this crime, and as we mentioned, the court almost issued it. This woman was acquitted after confirming that she was not conscious at the time of the crime, which made doubt enter the heart of the court, but suddenly decided to confess the full details of the crime. The funny thing is that after she was sentenced to life imprisonment, she was denied submission. That is, a petition for pardon, after 25 years have passed, that she has returned in her statements to confirm that she is innocent, and that this ruling is arbitrary because she suffers from mental disorders. But the court took her admission that she was mentally disturbed as the utmost reason, as no mentally disturbed person admits to being disturbed, and this lady is still doing it by sending many letters to human rights organizations to get her out of prison because she is innocent. Lessons learned from the story of the most heinous murder in history. The need to treat mental illness because it can cause a catastrophe. Have good morals and do not offend anyone. And the need to treat animals humanely with kindness and mercy. The end.